Marielle Heller's career has included Diary of a Teenage Girl, Can You Ever Forgive Me, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and her new film is Nightbitch. Marielle, I wanted to start actually at the beginning for you. Not just because you're in the scene, but I think it's very important. You have a cameo in the beginning of the film. We're in the grocery store. You have Amy's character, the mother, and her adorable son walking through the grocery store. And we cut to your character dealing with two rambunctious children, I could say. And I guess why was it important for you to show that juxtaposition right off at the top of this film?
You know, there's this thing that happens when you're a parent and you're walking through the world feeling like everybody's staring at you because your kid is either screaming or maybe this is the moment where they're not screaming, but there's this shared moment where you catch the eye of another parent who's going through something really hard. And you can either be judgmental or you can be the one who's like, it's okay, I gotcha. And I wanted to capture that feeling of what it is, because often I've had those in the subway or in the grocery store where either my kid is the one freaking out or I happen to be the mom who's not got the kid who's freaking out, but I make the eye contact and try and give a little kindness to the mom who's dealing with a kid who is freaking out. Yeah.
Honor among thieves, maybe, or something, right? Is that the
Exactly. It's just that shared understanding. And in a lot of ways, this whole movie is about that shared understanding and that recognition and the lack of judgment, hopefully, that we could give each other. Because as a mom in the world, you do tend to feel a lot of judgment from all the eyes watching you and the ways you're doing whatever you're doing wrong.
I want to ask you this. Did you have you noticed, I guess, because I think I'm a parent and I was like watching it like with that, but have you noticed in terms of your film, like, do parents and non-parents react differently to it? And are
Totally.
they like, and then like, what are non-parents taking away from it, I guess, versus parents? What have you noticed?
I mean, I guess without totally intending to, I did make this movie for parents. I made this as a movie to hopefully make people feel less alone who are going through that experience, and a little bit of an acknowledgement and recognition of what an enormous transition it is to become a parent if you do become a parent in your life, that it's a bit of a coming of age period in your life, just like becoming a grown up adolescence is, that it is a big identity shift we go through, and I think we don't always give that uh enough weight. But I've been pleasantly surprised by the way that people who are non-parents have reacted to the movie. I've had people come up to me and say, you know, I never wanted to have kids, and your movie just really validated that choice for me. Or I've had other people who've watched it and said, this really made me think about my mom. Young people particularly have been like, I want to go back and see this movie with my mom. It gave me so much perspective on what my mom went through when she was raising me, which is a beautiful, I think, nice effect that the movie is having on people.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really funny.
I thought most about how parents would feel when seeing
Yeah. Well, I watching it, it was like the scariest thing I've ever seen was the amount of co-sleeping. I literally was like, I cannot. I was like, my eyes, it's so terrifying. So it's like, it's
it.
like
If
great
you look
horror
at the
movie.
numbers, if you look at the numbers of the people who co-sleep in the world, it's a lot.
I
And
know.
people won't even admit it, but it's a lot.
But I wanted to ask you this. I'm sure you've heard this many times throughout this press tour, but I think there's that W.C. Fields cliche of never work with children or animals. You do both here in spades. I've never seen so many. The
I
child
know.
actors, Arlie and Emmett Snowden, I've never seen boys more authentic and more realistic as children on screen in my entire life. So I guess, like, how did you
That's
do that beyond having them become adopted by Amy Adams? That was,
That's the
it's
best
like,
compliment I could get. I think one of my major goals, almost more than anything in this whole movie, was trying to capture what felt like an authentic mother-child relationship. Because I watch movies and I'm like, who the hell is this kid? This is not a real child. This is not how kids act. And this is not the bond between a mother and a child. You know, that relationship is a very deep relationship. It's as layered as a marriage. And I actually wanted to capture what felt like an incredibly nuanced, deep relationship between a mother and a child. So the challenge there was obviously casting incredible kids. They are not actors. They had never acted before. I wanted real kids who felt like real, rambunctious, complex kids, and creating a very careful environment where we were setting up a situation in which we could capture something that ended up feeling like a real relationship. And so that was
hmm.
a huge amount of work that went into that every day in order to bond them with us, bond them with me, bond them with Amy, bond them with the entire crew, create an environment where everything was a bit of a game, but all with this very careful, like, how am I going to get what I need to get out of them for this scene, for the emotional relationship, making everybody feel really comfortable with each other so that we could kind of sit in the relationship and the silences and the moments, and that Amy could feel really taken care of in the way that she knew she wasn't totally actually responsible for the kids. So she could be doing her internal work as an actor, and I was handling the children in so many ways, so that, you know, her instincts as not their parent may be to be more attentive or more connected to them when I needed her to be in a different headspace, basically. So it was kind of, it was a lot of work. And I found Arlie and Emmett off a Facebook group for twins, basically. And I met and auditioned so many twins for these roles because I felt like it was one of the biggest decisions in the whole movie. And by auditioned, I hung out in a park and played with kids for hours on end. And it's a moment where I think if I was a male director, someone would have called the cops. But being a female director, nobody did. I could just hang out at the park without my own child, playing with other people's kids, and it was fine. And Arlie and Emmett, they had this playfulness. They're not afraid of people, but they're really real kids. They're really like, you know, they have real kid reactions. They're not trying to please everybody all the time. They're in their own world, but they're also outgoing and fun, and they could play games, and I could roll around on the ground with them and go, okay, let's play doggies. And then we're going to play a game where I'm going to do this. And I need you to jump on my back and say this. And we could do call and response, and they could do it. And so it was every day was a little bit of a, you know, a new challenge of like, how do we get this thing that we need out of them? But also, how do we make them feel really good in this whole experience? And like, this is a fun place for them to be and a fun environment for them, so that it all could, I mean, all of that served the performance.
It's incredible. I mean, like, it really is, like, it feels, I mean, this is the best way possible. It feels like effortless, and obviously it took
I
so
know.
much work to get it, but I really think it makes the film what it is, because if
I
not,
hope
like you
it feels
said,
effortless.
yeah,
That would be the goal, you know?
yeah,
But it is one of those things where hopefully you don't see the seams and you don't
no,
recognize how much work went into creating something that feels so lived in and real. And, you know, it really was, it was a joy working with them
yeah.
for these little spontaneous little X factors that we threw into a very organized, very well rehearsed production, where the actors and I had rehearsed a ton with and knew exactly how we wanted scenes to play out. And the DP and I, this is our third movie together, Brandon and I. So we had everything very shot listed, but then you throw in this little kind of spontaneous bomb that can also really ground you guys all in. It could ground all of us into the present. Like, you can't be anything but very present when you have just turned 3-year-olds.
Incredible. They're so cute too. They're just very
I
cute.
know.
You mentioned, like, you have Amy obviously as well. I think it's like a fantastic performance, and like she's completely going for it, I feel like, and like it's really
Yeah.
funny and just kind of crushes everything. I mean, like, you've worked with some really incredible actors, like we were like mentioned those films before, but like what surprised you? Not necessarily even surprised. What stood out to you about Amy, I guess?
She's such a relatable person, and the majority of our early conversations were all about being moms and talking about our lives. You know, I tend to approach a movie similar to how I would approach a play. There's a lot of kind of table work, talking through the script, talking about our own lives, finding ways in from a very emotional point of view for the actors, and then building over time a clear trust between me and the actors, because I knew I was asking Amy to do something vulnerable, something that was going to be a little bit intimate and feel scary at times, because there wasn't going to be much of a facade on anything. I love thinking about the fact that the movie she had done right before this was Disenchanted. Like, it could not have been a wider range. She did do a play in between,
Okay.
but still, it was, I knew I was asking something very different from her, but she was game. She was just game. And she knew that this was a subject matter that was important to her. And we talked about it as kind of an antidote to Instagram culture, that like the realness and the rawness of where we wanted to let this film live. There was a reason behind it. It was important.
Yeah. Again, I could speak to you about this film for ever. We do have to wrap up.
Okay.
Marielle Heller, Marielle Heller, director of Nightbitch. Oh, she's there. Marielle
No,
Heller,
no,
director of
it's great.
Nightbitch. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.